Kendall. Hey, Dr. Kimberly, it says we're live.
We are. So, good afternoon to all our viewers. Today is the last day of the week for us for this. Yeah.
Can't believe it's September 9th, a Thursday already.
Who thunked this up?
This time flying thing needs an adjustment.
Wow. I said I wasn't going to say that. Do you ever go back and watch the lives and say, you know what, I shouldn't have said it that way, or, oh, I've got a couple of go-to words. I need to change those.
I prefer not to see recordings of myself in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. I find it hard enough to look at the screen now and see my face.
Oh, don't say it like that.
So
I'm excited about our guest.
I am too.
I like to see your face, Dave.
What's that?
I like to see your face.
Well, thank you, Ms. Budzynski, and welcome to Rolling on the Road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave.
Woohoo! Am I supposed to do this?
Well, that's like cheering in sign.
Oh, it is. Okay.
We pick up a few signs in
we know a couple of things.
16 months we've been at this, rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. Important signs like zombie and moose.
Oh, I know that one.
Moose.
Oh,
I like the way Laura does moose with the full curvature.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and bear is another good one. Oh, she does bear that way as opposed to that way.
I like her moose. Can we say that like that?
Because it's not only our attempt to be inclusive, our commitment to be inclusive, but it's also about learning for all of us folks who don't know sign, that there's a whole nother language out there and culture related to deaf people. And it's an awesome community. And Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services, check them out.
They're great. Yeah.
But today we're talking with another community partner that we hang out with at least once a year. We might talk about that later in the show, but we also, we send people each other's ways sometimes. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. This is great to be with all three of you and to be somewhere on the road with you. Rolling. I'm wondering where we are. I'm hoping somewhere in New Mexico or somewhere,
Well, as Dr. Kimberly likes to point out with our statistics, our show, we've been coast to coast, Maryland to California, Georgia, the UP. People in 9 countries watch us.
Wow.
So
the other day, we had a person from the Netherlands that was watching, and they were commenting. So it was like, yes,
it's a wacky world out there.
Well, it just speaks to the importance of what you guys are talking about and all the time and commitment that you two put in for this show. So, yeah, that's wonderful.
I have to give a special thank you to Melissa, who shares Dave with me on many platforms.
As a full disclosure, Melissa is my wife, in spite of the fact that our last names don't share all the letters the same.
Right.
But we do share 5 of 9 letters.
That's right.
That'll be good.
That's right. Gary just came to say hi too.
All right. Well, Gary's quieter than Purple. Purple will probably pop in.
I think Purple's already here.
My dog is getting a bad reputation. And sometimes
I'm just stating the facts, no bad reputation. So there he is on cue.
Hi, Purple.
Just on cue, and Dr. Kimberly muted herself as Purple is excited to be in the house, running and rolling around.
He's just, well, what made me feel a little bit better today is that I had to call the VA. And when I called them, obviously they have their agents working from home because I heard a dog barking in the background.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my gosh, is that a dog? I just feel just 100% wonderful right now. She says, I am so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. I said, that's okay. My dog likes to make appearances as well.
Yes.
And around the world is purple.
Just, whew. So I felt kind of good. So I'm excited to have Melissa here because, as Dave alluded to, we do have another kind of partnership with Melissa and Gilda's Club. Yay! But one of the biggest myths that I believe that exists about Gilda's Club is that it is only for people who are survivors or are going through breast cancer.
That's a big myth. Yeah. And it is true and untrue all at the same time, right?
Yeah, right.
The word only is the part that's untrue. Because we definitely have groups for people who are going through a cancer journey, a breast cancer journey, but any kind of cancer. So, yeah, survivors and people who are currently in treatment.
Wow.
And who else?
Well, I'll just give you my spiel here. How's
Spiel.
that?
Oh my gosh, we get the elevator pitch, Dave.
Get the
All
elevator
right.
pitch.
Rolling up and down an elevator.
All right. So Gilda's Club is a cancer and grief support community. Everything we offer in I say the Grand Rapids area, but honestly, we have people that now virtually come from all over the country, including their hospital beds. But it's a support community for people who have any kind of cancer, who are supporting someone who's on a cancer journey. So let me just explain that. Like if I had cancer, Dave would be able to come. Kimberly would be able to come because she knows me and she would support me. All of our children would be able to come. Laura doesn't know me very well yet, but once we got to know each other, she could also come. So anyone that is connected with me and wanted to come to a support group and talk about what it's like to walk with someone on a cancer journey or to be on a cancer journey is welcome at Gilda's Club. And then in addition to that, we have a full grief program for anyone who has experienced a death in their life from any kind or from any source. So it could be heart attack, accident, could be cancer, suicide, drug overdose, accidental, whatever it is, that they are welcome to participate in our support groups, our full program. So again, everything we offer is 100% free of charge. I see Kimberly just disappeared. Do we just keep going? Yeah?
We just keep rolling.
Okay, we just keep rolling. All right. So I forget where I was at.
You're saying that everything costs how much?
Nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely free. There's no charge to you or your insurance. And each of the support groups are facilitated by a trained, licensed mental health professional like myself. I have my master's in social work, and we're on staff. So you wouldn't come into a support group that had a volunteer that facilitated that. In some of our youth groups, we have volunteers that help the staff. They support us because we want to make sure that we have good ratios and that we're able to meet the kids where they're at. But in all the other adult support groups, it is a trained, licensed staff person with a mental health background who facilitates those groups. Now, in saying that, I want to be clear also that they are not therapy groups. Our focus at Gilda's Club is to bring people together in a safe, emotionally safe, physically safe environment where it's non-judgmental, it's comfortable, warm, and welcoming, where they can lean into the emotional side of their journey. And so we facilitate, we might bring a topic, we'll set the time, we'll set the stage where we're at, either virtual or in person, and then we help the conversation to happen where people can connect, share their experience, strength, and hope, and support one another as they travel. You know, some people call it a forced march. Some people call it a journey, whatever you want to call it, whatever that experience is in grief or in cancer, so that you can support one another and create community.
Well, we at Disability Advocates, we would call that peer support. So is there good peer support happening?
Yes, there is. It's peer support with support from the staff. So absolutely, it is peer support. There's no requirements to be friends outside of group or to share your personal information, but there's absolutely the opportunity to do that if you would like to. Many of our members become lifelong friends. They go with each other to treatment. They go with each other sometimes to the gravesite, to celebrations of life, to help clean out their person's house or room or whatever it is. But that's not a requirement. It's an option. So the opportunity to create community is there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the really cool, well, we have a 3-part program. One part is this support program that I was just talking about. Second part is that we have a full battery of wonderful classes you can take. We have a woman, mostly they're local people, but we do have someone from California that comes, Dana Lee, who comes to us from California and teaches yoga. And she started her Embody GR here in Grand Rapids, and now she teaches virtually for us. But we have ukulele, we have meditation, we have a breathing workshop, we have quilting and knitting. So all kinds of really sit and be fit, all kinds of really fun and enriching classes that are facilitated by volunteers who have some expertise in that area and interest in that area, and they want to share it. We even have French cooking, bistro French cooking. They make some pretty good stuff. I'm just thinking about this now too. We also have what's called Dorothy's Chocolate Factory.
Ooh.
Yeah, they make a lot of really good stuff. And they've even started making like gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, like so everybody can have something. And actually, Dorothy's been teaching that class for, probably 20 years minus COVID. So we have lots and lots of classes that happen. And then the third part is our social program. And that's our community. When we are actually in person, we typically have had dinners 4 nights a week. People can come together and just enjoy a dinner together and chat. You don't have to sign up for it. They didn't have to pay for it. They just can come and enjoy themselves and be nourished that way. And then we like to party, kind of like Disability Advocates. We like to party. And so, 4 times a year or so, we have some themed party. Right now, we're talking about our Halloween Noogie Fest and how we're going to do this in a safe COVID manner. And so we just like to do those kinds of things. And so that's really our full program. And then I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to add a couple of other things, is that we have a clubhouse that is stunningly beautiful here in Grand Rapids. We sit on 6.5 acres. It's on the west side by Union High School. It's an old farmhouse that was renovated, has gardens, 100% accessible. Bathrooms, elevator, everything. Even in the elevator, I was taught this by someone who is sight impaired, that it has Braille in the elevator. And so you can know what floor you're going to, which is an important thing.
And before we brag up Dr. Kimberly's connection with Gilda's and and laughter, it is. I mean, when Melissa mentions that commitment to accessibility,
yeah,
I, believe it or not, was one of the first people to visit what is now the kitchen and the whole clubhouse with the board before they bought that building. I had actually visited a different building with them. I mean, their commitment to accessibility was from day one. And they said, you know, if we're going to have a welcoming, inclusive, safe environment, it has to be accessible. And they're like, Dave, can we make this accessible without huge costs? Because Melissa only mentioned it in passing. They don't charge insurance, which means they're getting dollars elsewhere. We might ask her that question, how people can help Gilda's. But for now, to simply say it was so cool that I remember going through the place before they started construction, before it became the clubhouse. And again, it's got awesome accessibility.
Yes. Thank you, Dave, for doing that, helping with that. I'm going to tell you a fun story, though, really quick, is that when they first were renovating it and creating it to what it looks like now, before they finished the walls, they invited all the people that helped Gilda's open their doors, plus all the members and anyone else in the community who was a cancer survivor. Then when we first opened 20 years ago, it was just a cancer support community. But they signed we called it a stud signing party, and people signed their names and wrote messages of hope and support. And so those are encased in the building. And they also had some Tibetan monks who were in town came and blessed the building and then wrote prayers inside of all of the walls. And so those are there, and you can really feel them. People often have said that they can really feel it when they're in the building, this just being held and this openness and warm, safe space. And I truly believe it's all of those prayers and thoughts and stories and names that are right in the walls. So,
yeah. Well, It is almost 4:20, and we're going to be mindful of the time because Miss Melissa has a very, very busy schedule. So we want to say thank you so much to the Deaf or Hard of Hearing for rolling with us for the last 16, 17 months. Wow. Thank you so much to Disability Advocates of Kent County and to 100 Shades of Disability that support us in all that we do, bringing you the latest, the greatest, and finding folks from all over the country to give you some great information as to, you know, what is happening now. We are so excited. Our guest today is Melissa Budzynski, and disclaimer here, she is the wife of Pastor Dave.
Partner.
Yes. And we're just excited. She is a program staffer at Gilda's Club. Many of you probably are not as old as we are that can actually remember Gilda Radner from Saturday Night Live. And she was a stand-up comedian. And, you know, why everybody always thought that it was only for persons who had breast cancer, it's because she died from breast cancer. And I'm
going to correct you really quick.
She did not die from breast cancer.
No, ovarian cancer.
Ovarian cancer. Okay. So why does everybody think that Gilda's Club only assists women, number one, and women who have breast cancer?
Are you asking me that question?
I think I kind of am.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think also that it's been thought that Gilda's Club is only for white people or people that are able-bodied. And I want to say all of that is also not true. So we have a wonderful program called Sister to Sister that's for African-American women and anyone else who wants to join that group. that has cancer, and they meet sometimes in the community, sometimes at Gilda's club, but they do a ton of outreach work and just wonderful, have incredible, they have like just gatherings. So they have the Sisters Tea, which is just such a beautiful example of one of the things that they do. They get, it's a semi-formal event, and they have tea and people sing and then tell their stories. It's really quite beautiful. Anyway, so there's lots of opportunity there. We have a group for people who are, I'm not going to say this correct, but I'm going to say Hispanic, but it's Hispanic X. Did I say that correct?
Latinx.
Thank you. And that meets once a month. And then we're open to having interpreters, either hearing interpreters or for language in the groups if that is needed. So, and again, our facility is 100% accessible. And then the other thing is, and that I was going to say to this is there's a two-part question, is that we are in the community. Mm-hmm. We are in most of the schools in Kent County and beyond. We are in Lowell. We have a full program, and we share space with the senior center there. We go out to businesses. I've been to disability advocates to offer our services, either around having conversations about cancer, having conversations about supporting people, or having conversations about grief. And I know, especially now, it is very, very important with.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, for a moment here, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to remember when Melissa came in, but we had a coworker who died of cancer.
Yeah.
And, again, just to give people opportunities, as Melissa, invited folks for, if they wanted to, again, go deeper with others who've experienced that grief, the invitation to Gilda's, but also, just coming in, hanging out with our staff and talking about our coworker.
Yeah. And
what happens?
Yeah.
So if I go to the doctor, I'm diagnosed with cancer, it doesn't matter what type of cancer, I can call Gilda's Club and say, hey, I just got a diagnosis today. And there will be someone there available to have the conversation with me.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And if we're not available right then, within 24 hours, we will call you back from an initial call.
Do you assist families, once you get the diagnosis, do you help persons tell their family that they have cancer and go to the doctor to say, okay, this is what the plan is going to be, and just help in that way?
That is a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So our focus is the emotional health. So that emotional side of the cancer journey. We can, and we do offer times to meet with families and help individuals talk with their families, especially if there's a difficult moment or trying to explain it. Or we can process with them on how they want to tell their family or that kind of thing. Absolutely. Often that kind of knowledge and wisdom comes from other members in the group. So if you had a diagnosis, you might come to group and say, how did you tell your family? And the other group members would say, not what you should do, what you need to do. They would say, what I did that worked is this. What I did that didn't work is this, right?
Yeah.
We share the real of what's happening, not the prettied up, not the stump speech. We share the real of what that's like. And so in that way, absolutely. We don't go with people to the doctors, but we do have a mentor program where we've trained people who are further out on their cancer journey. And some of them, if you get connected with a mentor, the same kind of cancer we try to connect people with, they might go with them to the doctors or might go with them to treatment or help them navigate that. I will say that I had a call one day of a woman who was sitting in the parking lot. Her husband had brain cancer. It was during COVID, and she was not allowed in when he was seeing the doctor. He was having his treatment. He'd already had surgery, seeing the doctor and having his treatment. And when you have brain cancer and you've had surgery, sometimes your cognition isn't working. And when you're having treatment, sometimes you can't remember things. You don't remember what you were going to say, all of that kind of thing. She was very distraught. So what I did is I helped her in the moment to get a hold of a social worker in the office and rectify that situation. So that she could either be on the phone with her doctor, with her husband while the doctor was talking, or she would be with the social worker in and get a permission to be in there. So we have done those kinds of things. But a lot of times the other members will share those experiences with each other. And that's what really helps, is like, what did you tell your doctor? How did you manage this side effect? What do I do now? I've got this diagnosis. Now they told me I'm supposed to have surgery in 3 days. What am I going to do? How do I decide what kind of, do I do reconstruction? Don't I? All of those kinds of questions, we really want that to encourage them to talk with their medical team, because we're not medical. We're not a medical facility. We don't give medical, information or, advice, but we give advice about what do you need in this moment to help you make this decision.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
help
think
yourself.
one of the things that was, I think, pretty okay for me was my doctor, when the test came back that, I had cancer, he just said, look, we're going to sign an agreement that both of us, we're going to be on a team together. I have no magic tricks. And he said, and we are practicing medicine. We haven't yet perfected it. And everybody's situation is different. And so what we may recommend for one person, it may not work for another. But one thing I will encourage you to do is get a team, Kim, so that you do surround yourself with people. He said, because you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. And you're going to need somebody to be there for you for the bad days. And you need someone that can go with you when you go to the doctor. So they may hear something that you don't hear, or they hear something that you don't want to hear. And so I appreciated, my primary care when they initially said, oh, you have cancer, and to start that journey. So I thought that it was really great. We do want to say hello. We have a plethora of people tuning in from all over the United States. We have Anise Johnson, Corey Alexander, Breon Edwards, Damon Black, Flora Johnson, Nina Cole, Tracy Walls, Christine Spicer, Aisha Gilliam, Vertanji. Hey, Vertanji. We have Joshua, Reverend Siddall is watching, and I know that Reverend Siddall, I believe, is in Illinois. And Tracy is in the Washington, D.C. area. I know that Joshua is in Atlanta, and I'm not sure where others are. I know that Brianna is in Detroit, and Vertanji is in Detroit. So we just want to say thank you so much for tuning in on today, and others who are watching us. Our guest, as you can see scrolling along the bottom, is Miss Melissa Budzynski. She is a program staffer at Gilda's Club, and we have dispelled the rumors that it's for anyone with any type of cancer. So you don't have to have a particular cancer to be able to go, and that they also offer grief counseling.
Yes, we do. We grief support. And I want to say, Kimberly, can we go back just a second to your comment about your physician? I want to say yay to your physician. It's so heartened to hear that conversation with you. That is an example, a beautiful example of a great match of someone's physician matching what they need. He knew what to say to you. He knew what you needed. He knew you wanted direction. He gave that to you. That is awesome. And he said the words, "I'm on your team." You know, he was there for it. Sign me up. And so
what I appreciated about him was that he actually drew up a contract that him and I signed, and the contract stated that he would give me as much information and as much advice as I needed. And I had to sign saying that I was going to be responsible for that information, and that I would try. I would have, number one, I would have to have an open mind, know that there was no magic cure. This was going to be a long journey, that we were in it together. This was a partnership, not a dictatorship. He's not going to just tell me everything to do. And I had to make a decision that I would follow through. So, you know, and I had to be committed. You know, was I going to be committed to the process? And he says, because that's a big deal. There's not a lot that we can all do if we're on your team, if you're not committed to living. And I said, I am committed to living.
Oh, wonderful. What an incredible person. That's
so we signed. So we both signed the contract, dated it. They made copies. I got one, he got one, and they put it in my medical file. And so I said, okay, fine. And as a result, I'm sitting here. I don't have hair. But you know who needs hair when you can get some big eyelashes?
Oh, right. Yes. And that beautiful jewelry. Right.
Great jewelry.
And that smile that could just like, wow.
So, you know, and I just appreciated him every step of the way, you know, just the encouragement. And he was like, well, just know you have the prettiest little round head I've ever seen. You know, so I just said, thanks.
That's really cool.
But he was kind, and just had his staff. They were extremely kind. They would send notes, or, you know, at my appointments, they would have a gift or flowers for me, saying, you know what, we're just encouraging you. You can do this. So
very
it was great. I would have loved to have, you know, participated, you know, at Gilda's club. And that was one of the things, girl, you know, that's only for people with breast cancer, so you can't go. I was like, what? I said, well, we getting ready to have a club right here. So
yeah.
So I kind of created, you know, Kim's club, and we just kind of hung out.
Because that support is that important. It is so important to get that kind of support and feel like one of our taglines, you said it, is in this together. That we are in the mire with each other, and that you don't have to face cancer or grief alone.
What have you done over the last 18 months, Melissa? I mean, you brought up the word COVID in passing, so
yeah,
I imagine the clubhouse might have been closed, or is it still closed? And
so
how you doing?
We actually don't like to use that word, only because when one door shuts, another door opens, and the door to our virtual clubhouse opened wide after COVID started. And you know, we learned so much. All of us could not, most of us are, I'm just going to totally date myself and are my age, and technology was not like the thing. And within 2 weeks of deciding we were going to try this virtual clubhouse, it was up and running. And so right now, 100% of our groups are being facilitated virtually. And while there's still challenges about being on, you know, virtual, as you guys all know, it has opened the door to so many things, to people who are in the hospital who typically couldn't get to group, especially people with like multiple myeloma who do a stem cell transplant and they're in the hospital for 6 weeks, or they're quarantining for 6 weeks, which now everybody's like, they're like, we did that. But anyway, but they're able to still participate in groups. I have kids in my grief group who go to stay with other family during the summer in North Carolina. They get to come to group on a regular, or in California. We have people in Lansing and just all over the place that are able to join who would not have been able to join necessarily.
And you can do storytelling.
Well, I did want to mention that. So then we added our own Facebook Live program, and Dr. Kimberly was one of my guests, and she read a book called Hair Love. Yes. She talked about her story with her hair, and it was so beautiful, and such a loving and open and accepting experience, especially for me, and hopefully for all of those who watched, I'm sure. But those are the things to talk about for us, is that how do I come to terms with my bald head? How do I shine and allow myself to lean into that experience, right? Yeah.
I think for me, it wasn't just having the bald head, but the long scar from the 5 surgeries.
Yeah.
You know, that normally when I first was diagnosed with cancer and I started chemo and my hair started coming out, you know, it was okay. But then when I had to have the surgeries, that was something a little bit different, you know, to go through that process to look like Frankenstein for a little while. Big, long choo-choo track.
Yeah.
Having more than over 100 stitches. And so just that process.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. And some people say that it's getting to know the new me, the new
absolutely.
Yeah. And so then learning to love each of those stitches and be grateful about that. It's not forced, it's getting there when you get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, having the long scar, and you know, when it was happening at a time where it wasn't popular for women to, you know, run around with their head shaved and marked up. So now it's like, oh, it's the norm. Or even having tattoos and
right.
But I think one of the things I thought was really nice, this is a shameless plug, that there's a young lady who does henna.
Yes.
And she does it for cancer patients, you know, once they lose all of their hair, and just kind of getting them to love themselves. And she's created some beautiful designs and put, you know, beads and diamonds and all kinds of things in. So that was exciting for me to get the henna. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. That crowns, they call it crowns of glory or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah. So we do have this full virtual program, including our Facebook Live program. 2 times a month, we read a book and do a craft or an activity around for the younger set, for school age and younger, and talk about that emotional health, emotional intelligence. And then 2 times a month, we have an more adult kind of conversation around either a community partner or a something that's happening or a topic that's important.
Well, I know there's one real adult conversation.
Yeah.
that you've done with a community partner.
Yes.
And since your services are free, I'm sure this might be one of the ways that people can support Gilda's Club.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So are you talking about West Side Walk?
Well, we could be.
We could be.
So
but I think we're talking about the yellow event.
I think that's the one.
Okay, so I'm
about West Side Walk.
2 things. So Gilda's Club has, we are 100% donation driven. Well, not 100%, maybe a small portion. We have grants. But so, and really honestly, it's by the everyday donor that keeps our doors open. And then we're grateful for those bigger donors who help us pay the bills. So, but we have a West Side Walk coming up September 18th, and that is a celebration of our membership at Gilda's Club. It's for our members and community members. And we are actually going to be in person at the clubhouse on the grounds. And you can look that up on our website. It's called West Side Walk, and you can donate could donate to mine. You could donate to somebody else's. But there's lots of places to donate there. And
it's actually scrolling. The information for Gilda's house is scrolling at the bottom of the screen.
Great. Thank you for that
technology. So the website is there as well as the phone number.
Yay. So in addition to that, some of you may have heard of Laugh Fest, and
some of you may have starred in Laugh Fest.
May have starred regularly in Laugh Fest. So, and we say laughter for the health of it, and it's about, again, getting to our joy by talking about the real. And Laugh Fest has been one of the largest comedy festivals in the United States. And Kimberly has been our MC at I don't know how you say that, but at Disability Advocates Show.
Right. We for I think 5 or 6 years now, we've partnered with Laugh Fest. We do a show that's called The Real and Funny Side of Life with a Disability. We have different comedians who, again, tell their story. Dr. Kimberly, again, has been a featured comedian. She's been an MC with our good friend Tommy Allen. And I mean, the funny, but now I don't want to call it sad, but Dr. Kimberly was one of the last comedians on stage in Laugh Fest 2020, because we had our event on March 11th. And then unfortunately on the 12th, you all closed down because of COVID. But you still can support Gilda's Club. Head to their website, and hopefully we'll get some announcements soon about Laugh Fest 2022.
Yes, I think you will. So keep your ear to the ground. You'll hear something about it. Yeah.
And boy, do I have a lot of material.
Yes, I can't wait. It's going to be rich. This whole, lots of people are going to have lots to say.
But we want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule just to roll on past us and hang out for the last few minutes here.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for asking me to talk about this really important resource we have in the community. And again, for all of you out there, if you're on a cancer or grief journey and you're looking for some support, we'd love to talk with you at Gilda's Club. Just get a hold of us. It's 100% free of charge, and no charge to you or your insurance.
All righty. So we want to say thank you so much to the Deaf and Hard of Hearing for rolling with us on today. Thank you again to Melissa Budzynski, who came to us from Gilda's Club, and they are located at 1806 Bridge Street Northwest, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49504. And the number there is 616-453-8300. You can find them on the web at gildasclubgr.org. Well, this ends another week with Rolling on the Road. We want to say thank you so much to Pastor Dave.
You're welcome.
And know that on Tuesday, we will be live from Special Olympics. This will be our first show, as Rolling on the Road is actually rolling on down the road right from me. And we will be, the address, Dave, is
160 68th Street Southwest. Make sure if you're going, you've never been to what was South Christian High, Southwest, because Southeast gets you lost into the Pine Rest campus. Southeast does. Many people have searched us and don't find us at Pine Rest.
No.
But we'll be there live at 4 o'clock. Coincidentally, our event starts at 4. So we're going to be live streaming from there. We're going to be in the big gym, so plenty of room for social distancing, masks on, and then a few little delights afterwards, a beverage and a little snack. just to say thank you. And if you want a tour, so that's next week, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Be there.
Or be square. Whoop,
Be
whoop.
square.
Yeah. So have a great weekend. If you have not been vaccinated and you are able to be vaccinated, please, 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 please go get your vaccination. And do not forget to mask up when you are in closed spaces. Please do your part. We appreciate you. Till next week.
See you, Dr. Kimberly. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.